All right, Mr. Chairman, you may, or Dr. Sullivan, you may give your welcome.
Sure. Good morning and welcome to the October 2020 meeting of the LCTCS Board of Supervisors. Very much appreciate each one of you being with us today. Thank you to the board members as well as to a number of special guests that are with us today. At this time, in advance of the meeting, I'd like to turn to Ms. Klein-Peter and ask her to provide some information regarding the nature of the virtual meeting today. Sarah?
Yes, sir. As we've done in the past meetings, I would like to cover a few housekeeping points for the virtual meeting today because we are live streaming on YouTube. Please be mindful again because we are live streaming to anybody that is watching. Those who are joining by remote access, we ask that you keep yourself on mute and use the raise hand feature if you have a comment or a question. We will recognize you to speak. You may unmute yourself, but give it a few seconds before you start talking because there is a little bit of delay. If you have trouble with anything, please text me. I am available and can assist in any way. And then you may view the board items via the links posted on our LCTCS website. We will conduct a roll call at the start of the meeting as we would normally, and each motion will require a roll call vote for approval. Members, when you're making a motion, please state your name. Motions must be made via sound and not gesture. Public comments may be made during today's meeting via the open public conference call line at 877-810-9415 and the access code of 6499147#. That information is also in the notice of the meeting posted on the LCTCS website, www.lctcs.edu. Any public comments received will be read during the minute by the board secretary or a designee, and all public comments must include the agenda item number, the name of the person submitting the comment, and a brief statement. Public comments are limited to 3 minutes per comment. And Mr. Chairman, I'll be happy to turn the meeting over to you at this point.
Well, thank you, Ms. Sarah. I appreciate you doing that. Appreciate you clarifying the ground rules as you did so eloquently. Would like to call this meeting to order of the October 14th, 2020 LCTCS Board of Supervisors. At this point, I would ask Mr. Chip Jackson, Supervisor Jackson, would you lead us in the pledge? Sarah, do we have a flag or not? Doesn't matter.
The flag
grab,
and we did not bring it upstairs. So hold on one second. Let me share an image of a flag with everyone.
I think that would be appropriate.
Just a minute.
I actually meant to ask you about that prior to the meeting. And
oh, Joe to the rescue.
Okay.
all right.
Here we go.
Now you may stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Yes.
Thank you, Joe.
I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the
United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you.
Very good.
Joe
Marine to the rescue again.
Joe walked down the hall faster than I could get a Google image up.
All right. Sarah, would you please call roll?
Yes, sir. I'd be happy to. Supervisor Price.
Here.
Supervisor Mount.
Here.
Supervisor Jackson. Is here.
Here.
Supervisor Bradford is absent. Supervisor Carter. Helen, can you unmute yourself and let us know you're here? We'll come back to Miss Helen. She is with us. She may have stepped away from her computer for a second. Supervisor Roman Hardy,
Present.
Supervisor Tim Hardy, Supervisor Hardy, are you here with us? I know you were wrapping something up. Miss Helen, are you here with us?
Yes, here.
Fantastic. Mr. Hardy, I know, was finishing up another call, so he may not be able to speak at this very minute. Supervisor McConduit is here. We didn't hear you, though.
Here. Can you hear me?
Fantastic. We hear you now. Supervisor Murphy,
Here.
Supervisor Potts is absent. Supervisor Salath,
Here.
Supervisor Smith,
He was here.
he's here. We were talking. Supervisor Smith, are you here with us?
Yep, I'm here. I got to do it over the phone for audio.
Yes, sir. Supervisor Spears is absent. Supervisor Spawn,
Here. I'm here.
thank you. Supervisor Toops is absent and will try to join us when his next meeting ends. Supervisor Mitchell,
I'm here, Sarah.
fantastic. And Supervisor Turner.
Here.
Hey, Josh. Tim Hardy, can you let us know if you're here yet? Mr. Price, we do have a quorum of the board present, even with Mr. Hardy not verbally saying that he's here. And so once we know he's here before any votes, we will make a note of that for the records.
Yes, ma'am. That's fine. Thank you, ma'am.
Yes, sir.
Now, everybody has a copy of the agenda. I would like to request a motion to approve the agenda for today's meeting.
So moved. Craig.
I'll second it.
Motion by Mr. Spawn and a second by Mr. Murphy.
Would you call the roll, please, ma'am?
Yes, sir. Supervisor Price,
Yes.
Supervisor Mount,
Yes.
Supervisor Jackson,
Yes.
Supervisor Carter, thank you. Supervisor Roman Hardy,
Yes.
Supervisor Tim Hardy, have you got on yet? He will not be counted in this vote. Supervisor Erica McConduit,
Yes.
Supervisor Mickey Murphy,
Yes.
Supervisor Salah,
Yes.
Supervisor Smith, yes. Supervisor Smith,
Yes.
Supervisor Spawn,
Yes.
Supervisor Mitchell,
Yes.
Supervisor Turner. He's muted, but he did say yes.
Yes. There you go.
Thank you. And that motion has passed and the agenda is approved.
Great. I feel some in globo coming on today for some reason. Now I need a motion to approve the minutes from the August 12th, 2020 meeting.
So
That's
moved.
Roman, I move. That's
A motion by Ms. Mount and a second, I think, by Roman Hardy. Is that right?
Yes.
Fantastic.
Sarah, would you call the roll, please?
Happy to do so. Supervisor Price,
Yes.
Supervisor Mount,
Yes.
Supervisor Jackson,
Yes.
Supervisor Carter,
Yes.
Supervisor Roman Hardy,
Yes.
Supervisor Tim Hardy. Are you here yet? I know you were on that other call. Supervisor Erica McConduit,
Yes.
Supervisor Murphy,
Yes.
Supervisor Salah,
Yes.
Supervisor Smith.
Yes.
Supervisor Spawn,
Yes.
Supervisor Mitchell,
Yes.
and Supervisor Turner.
Yes.
Fantastic. Mr. Chairman, that motion is passed.
Excellent. Excellent. Well, I guess the next thing on the agenda is the chairman report. That would be me. I have 2 or 3 items I do want to speak about. I'll be as brief as I can. First of all, I would like to mention the passing of the former governor, Mike Foster. As you know, it was under Governor Foster's watch that the LCTCS was created and has since flourished. Simply put, without his vision and tenacity, along with his obvious understanding of the importance of learning a skill or trade to become a productive member of the workforce and society, we would probably not be here today. His vision then remains our mission now, and we pass on our condolences to his family for their great loss. Monty, is there something you'd like to add to that?
No, sir, Mr. Chairman, very well said, and look forward to coming back to this board at some point very, very soon with a more formal opportunity to recognize the great contributions that Governor Foster made to this system. And I think at this point, what I'd like to do instead of me saying a few words is to let's turn to the video and let's hear from the man himself, the gentleman who was in many ways the father of this system. And he was with us in the 2015 annual conference, and we captured some of his comments. Would like to share those with you now.
The volume on my end.
Sir, it's Roman. I don't think we get any sound. We can see the video.
Roman, this is Craig. I'm not hearing anything either.
Yeah. Sarah, we might need to.
Hold on one second. I'm going to unmute our account and let's see if that works properly. I'm going to start it over again. I'm sorry, you guys. It's a very quick video, so give me just a second.
Sure.
Is this any better?
No, no video, no audio.
Well,
Folks, I tell you, we'll work on the technical side of this, but you know, and I could never say it as directly as Governor Foster did, but one of the things that I was most impressed with, and particularly given the times that we're living in with universities that have begun to open up admissions in a way that probably from a policy point of view is not what the state of Louisiana intended. He makes a really direct statement about the importance of admissions criteria, the importance of having an institution that is an open admissions institution, and of course the importance of the workforce role and the relationship with business to industry. But we'll certainly make sure if we can play the video later in this meeting, we will. If not, we'll get it out to you via email. But suffice it to say that he understood us and understood us long before we were created. So with that, Mr. Chairman, I'll turn back to you.
Thank you, Monty. Is Tim Hardy, Sarah, has Tim Hardy arrived yet?
yes, sir, he is. And I think that Mike is helping me on the bottom left of the screen that shares. I think we might have sound, guys. Give me just a second.
Okay.
Mike, if you want to run up here and help.
Can you hear me, Mr. Chairman?
Yes, sir, we hear you, Mr. Hardy.
Okay.
Mike, if you could come up here, I think I've done what you said to do, but if you could come and help, that would be great.
Okay, well, we'll just move right along to my next item for the moment. Sarah?
Sure. Are you getting sound right now?
No.
Okay. I apologize for that.
Okay.
And we are working on it.
The reason I was asking about Supervisor Hardy is because the next item on my agenda is I would like to congratulate our very own Supervisor Tim Hardy, who was recently re-elected to the ACCT Board of Directors for another 3-year term. As you all know, Supervisor Hardy was once known by us as Chairman Hardy. And the fact that he unselfishly gives of his time to serve on this national board says much about his commitment to our cause. The fact that this board has representation on the national board cannot be overstated. During my time on this board, I've witnessed the great amount of time to our system and our state that he gives to it. He does it with little fanfare and with a quiet yet strong leadership. And we certainly do appreciate it, Tim. I know, Tim, you're a man of few words, but I would like to give you that opportunity to speak now if you'd like to.
Well, I will say very few, but as I said before, what I must do is thank Katie and Sarah and Quentin for all they do for my campaign materials, for assisting me, because it's a pretty serious politics that takes place at that national level with the ACCT. I'm honored to have the support of this board. I will continue to bring back from the ACCT what I can bring back, but more importantly, I have a chance to carry to ACCT the successes and processes we have at this board, which is nationally respected. So thank you all so very, very much.
Thank you, Tim. Any comments?
Congratulations, well deserved.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Yes, congrats.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
All right.
Congratulations, Supervisor Hardy.
Thank you.
Keep up the good work there, Tim. We're pulling for you, man.
Thank you all so very much.
Yes, sir. My next item is we're very pleased to note that the Chenier Foundation has made a very generous donation to the Louisiana Community and Technical College System. For those of you not familiar with them, their product is liquefied natural gas. They have a huge facility in Southwest Louisiana and another in Southeast Texas. They began operations back in 2016, 4 years ago, and they are already the largest producer of LNG in the United States and second largest LNG operator in the world. Their liquefied natural gas has reached dozens of markets on 5 continents, and the demand for this fuel will continue to grow as countries around the world seek cleaner ways to power their economies. I'm very pleased to announce that Chenier has donated $100,000 to support the college's rebuilding efforts in the aftermath of Hurricanes Laura and Delta. The donation also calls for $50,000 to be allocated to assist SOELA students and staff through the LCTCS Response and Recovery Fund. I believe today we have someone to speak more about this donation. I think she's certainly no stranger to the system. One of our LCTS Foundation board members, Ms. Jane Uby from Chenier. Good morning. Can't hear you.
Me now?
I can hear you now, yeah.
Yay, we got something right today. So thank you. That was a beautiful speech there. I really appreciate it and greatly appreciate the opportunity to participate today. As you said, my name is Jane Uby. I'm the director.
I'm sorry, Miss Jane. Could you speak up some? It's very hard to hear you.
Certainly, I will. I am quietly spoken usually with such a lovely Louisiana accent. So appreciate you telling me that. So I'm the director of training for Chenier Energy. So as you said, we are an energy company with very large presence in Southwest Louisiana. Chenier began its participation and partnership with SOELA several years ago with a commitment to building a strong workforce and economy for Southwest Louisiana. Commitment and collaboration were really key in the successful development of the programs we've launched together But little did we know that it would be resilience that would keep these programs together and afloat. This year's unprecedented challenges have impacted Southwest Louisiana environmentally and economically, and with that, a risk of impacting the educational opportunities Cheniere and Sewella have worked so hard to create. Earlier this year, LCTCS launched their Response and Recovery Fund to stop struggling students impacted by COVID-19. Cheniere was the first company to pledge support to the fund, and we donated $10,000 for technology and equipment essential for distance learning. And recently, Cheniere has donated $100,000 for relief efforts related to the impacts caused by Hurricane Laura. We recognise that without these funds, students would be at risk of having to suspend their educational pursuits. And despite these challenges, Cheniere, Sewella and its students remain committed to our goals. You know, together we are very resilient. Cheniere is proud to continue support and collaborative partnerships with Sewella, but most of all, Cheniere is proud to contribute to the resilience of Sewella, its students, and all of Southwest Louisiana throughout this difficult time. So thank you again for allowing me to speak this morning.
Bonnie, would you like to make a comment?
Just a quick thank you. We're blessed to have the relationship with Cheniere, with you, and just such a strong partner for all of our colleges, and especially for the folks in Southwest Louisiana. So thank you. We're appreciative.
Very much so.
And Paul, may I speak?
Yeah, absolutely.
All right. Again, just thank you so much for your commitment to our system, and in particular to Southwest Louisiana. You more than most are well aware of what's happened to us with the hurricanes and all, but your leadership, and you're such a good example for others in support of our students at all the system, but particularly at Sewella. So thank you.
Absolutely. Any other comments?
Yeah, I would like to make one. Just thank you and your company for sticking to our system and students as a whole. Speaking from a student standpoint, knowing that our community partners are sticking up for us literally gives us that extra leg to make it through. Thank you very much.
Well said. All righty. Thank you, Jane. Appreciate it very much. Final item I have is another donation. This is the AT&T Foundation donated $25,000 to Sewella to aid with damages caused during Hurricane Laura. In the aftermath of the storm, the AT&T Network Disaster Recovery Team, in partnership with the FirstNet Response Operations Team, was in the field working closely with first responders and local leaders to help maintain continued connectivity. The FirstNet mission is to deploy, operate, maintain, and improve the first high-speed nationwide wireless broadband network dedicated to public safety. This reliable, highly secure, and innovative public safety communications platform brings 21st century tools to public safety agencies and first responders. Tools that help them to get more information quickly and helping them to make faster and better decisions. I believe David Aubrey from AT&T is with us, or is supposed to be with us.
I am here. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Hi, thank you, Chairman.
Yes, sir.
President Sullivan and members of the Board of Supervisors. Certainly thank you for this invitation to come and receive acknowledgement for our most recent contribution. But I must tell you, our relationship go back many years, many years with the Louisiana Community and Technical College System and the member institutions and campuses. And I tell you, you highlighted FirstNet, and we're very proud of our network and its performance for Hurricane Laura and Hurricane Delta, and just throughout all of the challenges that we may have experienced over in Southwest Louisiana and across the state. AT&T certainly, even before the hurricane, has a history of giving to the system and the system's foundation in many of the member campuses. We're in the second cohort of supporting a program at Delgado Community College that supports training for students who are going through an OSHA, electrical, HVAC, and a carpenter training program that we funded in the middle of last year as a part of a targeted initiative in the New Orleans East community for students. We earmarked and funded 10 students from that particular community to be a part of a training program at Delgado. And as we commenced this year, just prior to the storm, we've had conversations about supporting the LCTCS system. And this summer, we granted 22 students. We're funding 22 students a $500 scholarship system-wide that will be for some industry certifications, particularly in STEM and electrical. And so when the opportunity came to be a leader and be supportive of disaster relief efforts, then we reached out to President Sullivan, who got me a contact number for the chancellor of Sewella, and who over the weekend we worked, and we were very time sensitive and wanted to get the money to them as quickly as possible. Electronically hit the bank, do what we need to do so they can do whatever they do to help those students and the faculty and staff. And I'll tell you, prior to the money getting there, they had a communication need. And so they called, and you know, the storm hit on that Thursday. We did our own internal assessment, and we were back open our retail operations on Saturday, and they needed just the phones weren't working. So we got some prepaid devices, and they went in on the store. We weren't really open for customers, but we made it available to provide some prepaid devices that worked on our network and worked very well, just to give some initial communication so they can check on their team and have some you know, access to communicating with their leadership. And so just recently, along with a number of other community partners, we did provide a contribution for $25,000 just to give some additional immediate relief. We've also worked with them to get them some very much needed hotspots. I think several hundred, 500-700 for Sewella. And I will tell you, the community has responded. We've tried to be there for Southwest Louisiana when they really need us most. We were there before. We've been there now in a big way, and we're talking plans as yesterday and last week about doing more to expand our coverage and improve and increase our capacity in Southwest Louisiana in particular, but all across the state of Louisiana. So on behalf of our AT&T president for the state of Louisiana, Sonia Perez, who also serves as a regent, and all of the nearly 3,000 employees, AT&T is proud to be a partner of this system and to be supportive of Sewella and all of the member institutions. There are a couple of other projects that we're working on with some campuses to close out this year, and we make plans for 2021. So thank you for allowing me to participate this morning.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, if I may, I want to, I've had the pleasure of knowing and working with David Aubrey for 20 years. And I have to tell you, that doesn't date either one of us, right, David? But as a former mayor.
Grade school together.
That's right, grade school. That's right. We'll stick to that story. David has been just a tremendous partner in prior roles, but certainly in the role with AT&T. There are few things that bring you as much comfort as in the midst of the panic and chaos following something like a storm, of having a friend call and say, we're here to help. That's what David did. He reached out unsolicited, called and said, what can we do to help? That happened over a weekend. In fact, it could have been on the Friday, maybe Saturday. My phone rings as David Aubrey saying, how can we help? That is the kind of partner that AT&T has been for us over the years. David, if you don't mind, I'd like to share a picture that you shared with me with the board because I think it shows the innovation of AT&T. It shows the commitment that AT&T has to our community. And I got to admit to you, I was kind of maybe a little bit of a geek when I saw this picture. But when the first storm rolled on ashore, Hurricane Laura really devastated Cameron Parish. And as you can imagine, the impact to cellular networks, it was destroyed for the most part, and in fact still is. But instead of just simply saying, well, there will be no cellular access, AT&T did something that is pretty special. And I'll share the screen now, assuming that the host will allow me.
Hold on one second, Monty. We will make.
This is that game of Mother May I, right?
You should be able to share your screen now.
Okay, very good. I'd like to take a look at this. This is the picture of the FirstNet blimp built by AT&T to deliver cellular service to the people of Southwest Louisiana. That's innovation. That's what our partners bring to bear for the people of Southwest Louisiana. We could not be more proud to work with you and to be that partner. And we're blessed to have you, David, to have Sonia Perez, who has just been a tremendous partner, both in her role at Regents, but certainly in the role at AT&T. So we're thankful for the contribution and all that we have done together over the years.
Yes, Monty, I just have to tell you, FirstNet Warning, which we call that particular, FirstNet is our blimp. And I will tell you, this was the first time we actually put it into real service. It had 2 missions that have been used for training that performed well. And we were very happy to make that request. There were a lot of things happening. Our President of the United States was coming to the region. Our governor and our first responders were on a mission, and they needed connectivity. And so we also connected our regular commercial, had some commercial traffic connected to this blimp that gave some tremendous coverage, basically in the coast of Cameron Parish. It was hard to reach. There was a lot of flooding. We had some vehicles that could move across water. We had a major tower that was down there. So we put what we call a COLT, a sail on light truck acronym. So, and then we needed additional coverage and capacity. FirstNet One could certainly do 10 square miles, provide a coverage, and did a lot to help the first responders, the National Guard, the state police, the Cameron emergency operations personnel, the Cameron Sheriff's Office, and those who were working to do search and rescue and provide the level of community support for the first responders. So thank you for sharing that. We're very proud of the investment, and we're very proud of the partnership with the system.
Very good. Thank you, David. And I'll turn back to you, Mr. Chairman.
David, if I can, or Mr. Chairman, David, hi, it's great to see you, my friend.
Yeah.
I just wanted to also echo thanks, because you specifically and Sonia have been just tremendous community partners, not just to our system, but all across the state. So, I mean, this is just phenomenal to see and hear, and it's great to see you again. So thank you.
Thank you. Hey, and also, I just personal privilege. I'm just happy to say I know Tim Hardy personally.
I knew it was coming, but look, don't go too far, all right? David and I do go back. We're from the same part of the state. Well, he was mayor a little bit further over, but we've been involved inside politics and stuff for a long time. And I have tremendous respect for David. And thank you so much for all you do. But let's not tell any further stories, all right?
No. Thank y'all.
Thank you, David. We do appreciate you.
Yes,
appreciate
sir.
everything that your company's doing for our system and for the folks in the state, because it's been a rough 2020, no doubt.
We're with you.
And with that, Mr. President, I think I'm going to hand it off to you. That concludes my
Very
report.
good. Excellent. And thank you, Mr. Chairman. A great report. And I'd like to, if we can, run through just a few items that I'd like to share with you. I want to begin with an update from Sewella. As you are aware, we provided updates on the physical impact of Hurricane Laura and Hurricane Delta for the Sewella campus. I'd given you the update on the schedule for the rebuilding following Hurricane Laura. And as you all know, that now has been impacted even further. And I'd like to ask Chancellor Aspinwall to give us an update on how things are working out in Southwest Louisiana. And I think, as you note there, Chancellor Aspinwall, number one, is on the campus and is, I see lights. That means there's electricity, and obviously there's internet connection. So thanks to AT&T for that as well. So with that, let me turn it over to Chancellor Aspinwall for a few comments.
Chairman Price, President Sullivan, members of the board, good morning from Southwest Louisiana, and more specifically, the campus of Sewella Technical Community College. And you're right, you do see lights. We do have electricity. Many of our buildings are now under their own power. But I'll go back a little over a month. People tell me now that although I'm from Georgia, I'm a true Louisianan now because I've experienced 2 hurricanes, back to back. But I can tell you, been here a little over 8 years, and absolutely nothing could have prepared me for what I saw when I walked back on this campus the day after the storm. And I always use a little quote: 8 years of work and progress, in a few hours, it's gone. It was blown away. But always optimistic. It could have been worse. I'm thankful that we don't have to leave this campus. We do have at least 6 of our buildings that had minor damage. And I'm very happy to report that we've already started repairs. And my plans are, by the end of this month, 6 of those buildings will be reopened. We will bring students back on the campus. We're going to try to salvage as much of this semester as we can. Unfortunately, there are a number of buildings that have major damage to them. And I have to give a lot of accolades to our president, Dr. Sullivan. He was here, and a couple of folks from LCTCS the day after the storm, and they walked the campus with me, and they saw the devastation. But they have been here with me every day. Some days are good. Some days are very frustrating. Things don't move as quick as I want them to move sometimes, but they always give me their support. Very happy that Dr. Kim Hunter-Reed has continually checked on me. And believe it or not, I had to leave for a few days and go to Georgia. And while I was in Georgia, I got a call. And the person on the other end of the call says, "Good morning, Neil. This is John Bell Edwards." And I almost said, "Oh, sure. And I'm John Wayne, too. Who is this calling me?" But he did. He has called twice and checked. And he wanted to know, were we satisfied with the progress and the schedule of rebuild? And I said, yes. He said, "I'll have to tell you that this is the most aggressive schedule that we have ever put together in rebuilding." And I said, "Well, I appreciate that, but if we can stick to this schedule, in a little over a year, Sewella will be put back in place." That's one of the things that our students are scattered to the wind. Our faculty and staff are scattered to the wind. We're slowly bringing those back. But the message that I just keep getting out is that Sewella is not dead. We're very alive. We're very strong, and we're coming back. I'm just very proud and, very glad of the support that we continue to get. People tell me all the time, well, we're light years ahead of where we were with Rita. Well, I wasn't here during Rita. And sometimes I'm thinking, well, it's still moving pretty slow, but I do see progress every day. There's a lot of optimism here. When I see the drywall going back, the windows being replaced, I see some activity on campus. Even though I look out and I see all this devastation still here, every day looks a little better. People come to the campus and they say, "Your campus looks awful." And I say, "You should have seen it last week, or you should have seen it yesterday. Today, it looks so much better." So we're coming back. I would just say, as board members, please be patient with us. We are losing students. Students are beginning to withdraw, and I can't blame them. If they weren't hit hard by the first hurricane and the wind, the second hurricane with the water and the flooding has really gotten them. But I'm very pleased to say that we aren't losing as many students as I thought we were. We still have almost 3,000 students that are hanging with us. They're still taking classes. They're still working hard. And we're going to stand up to our end here. We're going to stand up to our commitment, and we're going to provide the education and the training that they paid for, and this area of the state is known for. And I have to say before I leave, thank you very much again. I know they're not on the phone, to Jane Uby and David Albury, Chenier and AT&T. They have been wonderful. You know, one of the things with the donations that are coming in that we quickly learn is what the students really need is money. We could use it for tuition reimbursements. We could use it for equipment, but what the students need is money, and they need it quick. So what we're doing with most of this money, very few qualifications, we're putting it on gift cards, and we're giving it out, not only to the students, but the faculty and staff, because in this day and time and what they're going through, they need money. So we're getting it to them. So thank you for allowing me to give you an update. I have to say, every day things get a little better. Next week, they're going to be much better than they are this week. And Sewella is still alive and well and we're really strong. So thank you.
No, Neil, thank you for the update. And I could not be more proud of the approach, the spirit, and the mindset that you bring to this work. You know, we've always known Neil Aspinall is just a phenomenal leader. But it's not until rough seas when you truly get a chance to understand what you've built, not just physically, but what you built as an institution and as a team. We are proud of you guys, and keep it up. We're here to support you. And just maybe I'll open it up now and ask if there are any questions or comments from members of the board.
I think we need to give Neil a big hand of applause.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you.
Let me say, certainly, Neil, you're a superstar. I've told you that before, but your leadership and your efforts with Southwest Louisiana are over the top. And I'm just so very proud of you. And I feel so lucky that you're a part of Southwest Louisiana, have been and will continue to be, because you make a tremendous difference. And I can't tell you that enough, but just thank you.
Thank you, Willie.
Well said. Thank you, Neil. Very much appreciated.
Thank you.
Next, I want to turn to the opposite corner of the state. In the northeast part of the state, we have the interim chancellor of Louisiana Delta Community College, Chris Broadwater, who has been at the college now for, I believe, about 6 months. And during that time, you know, there are times when interim leaders go in and sort of just hold the wheel, right? That is not what Chris Broadwater has done. And I want to give not just accolades to Chris, but also to another interim leader who was at the University of Louisiana Monroe. As you may be aware, that institution has just gone through a presidential selection. And it was Edwin Litoff, who was the interim leader at University of Louisiana Monroe, a former LCTCS employee, in fact, at Baton Rouge Community College, who's gone on to have a great career within the University of Louisiana system. But Edwin and Chris were able to sit down, pull together an agreement that was in the best interest of students, that presented an opportunity for transfer. So at this time, I'd like to turn it over to Chris and have him say a few words about that agreement.
Thank you, Dr. Sullivan, Chairman Price, members of the board. Thank you for allowing me to be with you to tell you about some really positive news, I think, not just for Northeast Louisiana, but something that we hope can be a model that will spread throughout the state. When Edwin Litoff went to ULM as interim president, he and I had a prior relationship and got together on his first day there and asked each other whether we felt like our institutions were serving the community at the level that we expected. And both of us said we think we were doing a lot of things well, but we think there are some things we can do better. And so he and I started a conversation asking how we could, through partnership, serve even more of the community that we were tasked with serving. And what we came up with, I have to tell you, was not an original idea. This is a model that was started through Dr. Wainwright at North Shore in partnership with Southeastern Louisiana University. And we took their model and tweaked it to make it our own. And here's what it is. We entered into a memorandum of understanding that the ultimate goal will be that any student that approaches our institutions that says they believe they need additional education and want to participate in higher education, that by working collaboratively, the answer from us would always be yes, there's a place for you. And the way we are doing that is by working in partnership through our admissions department. As students apply to University of Louisiana Monroe, There are many who have always dreamed of being a ULM Warhawk, but maybe don't meet the admissions requirements of that institution. Instead of receiving a letter denying them admission for not meeting the admissions criteria, ULM is able to tell them yes. But what they do is they hand them off to a Louisiana Delta Community College employee working collaboratively with their admissions team. And we enroll them as a Louisiana Delta Community College student, but on the campus of ULM. That student gets access to dormitory housing. They get access to meal plans at ULM, and we provide the education to get them ready to be handed off to ULM when they're ready. But the thing that is positive that ULM said was, if they decide that Delta is the place where they need to complete, we don't ever have to have the handoff. Whatever meets the needs of the students, we'll work collaboratively and make sure that the student completes whatever credential they need that satisfies their dreams and gets them engaged in our community. And so we've started that path. The additional thing that came out of this was going beyond that, even for existing students at Louisiana Delta Community College. As all of you know, the population we serve, many of them have housing needs. And what ULM offered to us was, as they have available dormitory space, they would collaborate with our student services, and we connect them with ULM and provide that opportunity for our students to access housing at ULM that may be cheaper than the rental market, may provide them a safe and secure space to live, but we meet the needs of students without concern of whether ULM gets the credit or Louisiana Delta gets the credit, but we meet the needs of students to help them on their journey. So I have to give a lot of kudos to Edwin Litoff, to Dr. Wainwright and Dr. Crane, who started this model in Southeast Louisiana that we are expanding into the teams from both schools. And then Dr. Berry, who is the new president of ULM, who wholeheartedly jumped in and said he intends to continue it and support it as we move forward. I'm also pleased to announce that we have initiated discussions with President Gallo at Grambling, who has offered his support to replicate the model through Grambling, though it will be a little different. He doesn't have available housing. He actually has a housing shortage at Grambling, but will work with us to meet the needs of students who are applying to Grambling that maybe Louisiana Delta can support. And my goal is that by the time I leave there in a few short months when we have a new chancellor, to also have at least started the conversations with Louisiana Tech, another sister institution in our region that we serve. And my goal is to have agreements with all three of our four-year partners in the area. So I think this is a positive thing for students and provides an opportunity to give everyone access to higher education and meet their needs wherever they are. So I appreciate our four-year partners and glad to be able to report such positive news to you from Northeast Louisiana.
Very good, Chris. Thank you. And thank you for your leadership. Any questions or thoughts from the board?
I'd just like to say kudos to Chris for reaching out and making all that happen. As a ULM or NLU graduate back in the day, anytime I can see the community college system and NLU ULM working together, it's a good thing. And I really appreciate your efforts on that behalf, Chris.
Thank you, Chairman Price.
All right, very good. Let's move forward to the next item here. You likely are aware and saw the press release last week announcing, the governor announcing actually a relationship between the LCTCS, Louisiana Department of Economic Development, and Haas Automation Incorporated. The partnership will bring 5-axis machining to each of the 12 colleges across the state of Louisiana. And we are, as I think all of you are aware, LED has been a partner of ours really since the inception of the system, but specifically over the last 8 or 9 years. Paul Hilton and his team there with Louisiana Fast Start just embedded, maybe as a way to think about it. Our two organizations work day by day closely together. I want to thank Secretary Pearson for his leadership. Just been a tremendous partner with us. And with that, I'll turn it over to Renee Cintron for a quick update on the 5-axis training effort.
Sure. Good morning, Chair Price, President Sullivan, and members of the board. This partnership puts a Haas 5-axis machine at every one of our institutions, all 12 institutions across the state. with the intention of upskilling the state's manufacturing workforce. It's a game changer to have these machines centers at every one of our institutions. And the partnership not only includes the equipment, but also training and professional development and support for our faculty members to be able to use the machines to show the next generation of machinists in the state what it's like to use the state-of-the-art equipment. With that, if Paul Helton would like to say a few words about the partnership, that'd be great.
All right. Thank you, Renee. I appreciate that. And thank you, Dr. Sullivan, Chairman Price, members of the board. I'm really pleased to discuss another great example of the strong, successful partnership that we have between LED Fast Start and LCTCS. As many of you already know, workforce development is basically based on a cycle. A high-skilled workforce will attract companies with high-skill, high-wage jobs, which in turn drives demand for the advanced skills training, which then builds the high-skilled workforce, which attracts the companies, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. When it comes to advanced manufacturing, Louisiana, admittedly has been lagging behind our southern competitor states. We knew LCTCS could offer successful programs, but without good advanced manufacturing jobs available, all the graduates would have to go to other states for those jobs. Conversely, it was difficult for us to recruit advanced manufacturing companies without a ready and available workforce and well-defined advanced manufacturing training programs. So LED has recently recruited both new advanced manufacturing companies and assisted in the expansion of existing Louisiana companies to the point where we felt we could assist in building the capacity and capability at LCTCS to help build that CNC machining workforce. Dr. Sullivan and Secretary Pearson not only saw the opportunity for the specific colleges that were serving those companies, but also to expand this initiative, this opportunity across the entire state. Through our partnership with LCTCS and Haas Automation, we will be the first state in the United States to provide all-in-one 5-axis CNC machining training at every single one of our community and technical colleges. As Renee mentioned earlier, each college is also going to be receiving a simulator and instructor training at the Haas Factory School. Also, LED is going to be providing a salary supplement to each school for 2 instructors at each college, because as we know, sometimes it's very hard to hang on to those instructors because industry will scoop them up in a heartbeat. So we want to make sure that the schools will be able to retain those instructors. This partnership is going to supply aerospace, automotive, and other advanced manufacturing settings with that high skill, high wage workforce and allow us at LED to attract even more high quality jobs to the state. And as we move forward, hopefully we can continue to invest in LCTCS with other technologies such as robotics, PLCs, and others to help build that advanced manufacturing workforce for Louisiana.
Very good. Paul, can you and I apologize, I should have the number in front of me, but can you give an idea of the total value of both equipment as well as training?
I don't have the exact number right in front of me. Like you said, I should have that right in front of me for this as well. But overall, the total value of this is over $4 million.
That's what I thought. Very good. Any questions from the board? Very good. Paul, thank you very much. Appreciate the relationship and all the great work that you guys are doing with us to promote Louisiana's workforce. Moving to a second workforce related initiative, I'd like to ask Renee Cintron, if he will, to provide an update on the Reboot Your Career initiative that we've mentioned to you. And Renee, I'll turn it over to you.
Sure. Thank you. Reboot Your Career is a program that takes $10 million from the Governor's Emergency Education Relief Fund and provides that funding for training of 5,000 Louisianans for jobs available that are short-term to medium-term in the various regions of our state. And the schools participating, of course, are all of our 12 institutions, including the Southern University of Shreveport and LSU Eunice. So we have 14 institutions participating in this. The idea is to train individuals in 12 weeks or less, short-term, longer-term regional economy predictions of growth, as well as their credentials of value, on-ramp credentials as they've been recently defined by Board of Regents. And we want to make sure that folks are getting the training they need immediately for jobs that are open and available right now. And these jobs involve 5 industries: healthcare and some of the jobs underneath that for botanist, EMT, farm tech, nurse assistant. The other industries, transportation and logistics, drivers, captains, sailors, crane operators, and so on. Information technology as an industry with some occupations in web developer, computer support, information security analyst. The fourth industry that we're focusing on is manufacturing, as we just talked about. We have industrial engineering, millwright, frontline supervisors, structural metal fabricators, and others in that industry. Construction is another industry that is needed that we're focusing on. Some of the occupations there include carpenters, electricians, plumbers, and so on. So what we're focusing on various occupations and various credentials that fit inside those 5 occupations all over the state, with the idea of supplying additional workforce that it's needed right this second. So the way that that's working, we're using the $10 million to support these 5,000 credentials by providing a stipend to the institution and the student of $1,500 reimbursement for the credential that's earned. And this is happening in a number of ways. Many of our institutions are reducing the cost of attendance for students, in addition to giving a reimbursement for a student at the end of the completion of the credential, paying for the cost of the test for certification. There's a number of ways that our colleges are using these funds to increase the number of students that are graduating in these short-term, high-demand credentials all over the state. And that's our Reboot Your Career. And more information is on the website, lctcs.edu/Reboot Your Career.
Thank you, Renee. And if you know of someone out there who's been impacted by COVID, by storms, by any of those issues, or the economic downturn in general terms, folks that are unemployed, underskilled, a great opportunity for them to get into our colleges in 12 weeks or less, get the skills they need to be able to go to work. You probably, if you've watched a Saints game or an LSU game, you probably have seen the advertisements around those. Special shout out to Quentin and his team for securing that ad space and doing so at a very, very economical price to be able to tell the story about workforce training opportunities there. Any questions for Renee on that reboot discussion? All right, hearing none, let's turn our attention to the final item for Renee on this one. You will recall that back in May, the speaker, Clay Scheck-Snyder, carried a study resolution for us that asked that we look at how we deliver community technical college services across the state of Louisiana. The particular focus was on rural campuses. How do we find a better mechanism for delivering instruction and programs to the people of Louisiana, particularly in rural communities? The folks at NCHEMS, the National Council of Higher Education Management Systems, conducted that study. And as a result, the Board of Regents and the LCTCS Board Office have been working together to deliver on that study. And I'd like to ask Renee for a quick update on where we stand as it relates to the recommendations therein.
Sure thing. So we had 7 recommendations that were given to us, and we've done some work for each one of these before the recommendations and definitely since then. For example, the first one is continuing to offer educational programs at all of our sites. We're definitely doing that. We're continuing to offer in these, and we're evaluating what's continually offered. As you know, the Program Health Index is one of those mechanisms that we use to do that. Creating a mechanism, the second recommendation of creating a mechanism for early warning information of financial and status condition of our campuses. You are familiar with that financial report that alerts us of any variation of finances. The third recommendation is to address the challenges faced through actions as a system over individually accredited institutions. And we've done many things on that. For instance, as you know, Banner is one system that we're using. We are also combining workforce data into that same tool. We have Canvas or LMS that provides the opportunity for all of our students to take classes in one single instance. So those are some of the examples in each of the recommendations. And there's other things that we're doing as well. So it's just a little snippet of what's happening. The fourth recommendation of using technology to ensure that minimum class sizes are met across the system. As you know, we can share courses. Students from one institution can take classes from another institution just fine. And those are some of the things that we're doing to ensure that we're using technology towards that. Another thing that we've just completed is a dashboard that allows the academic officers and others at the institution to see the class sizes for each of the sections by subject, which one is at what level, and so on. So we can evaluate using technology that way. The fifth recommendation deals with curricula across the system to be more widely standardized. And some of the things that we've done in that regard, as you recall, a couple of years ago, you approved a policy that calls for credit for prior learning to be treated the same across the institution. So we've already mapped many of our courses to be aligned with industry credentials as well as with each other. And just last year, you approved the cloud computing program that is the same associate degree across the state. So we continue to move in that direction where students can see what course transfers into what program, what industry credential transfers into what program, and so on. The sixth recommendation touches a little bit on that as well, and is an emphasis on CTE and dual enrollment across the system, and that the same mechanisms that we're using for our curriculum to be widely standardized or more widely standardized across, we're using the same mechanisms for a dual credit program. So we're building a catalog of programs that are available for dual credit, focusing on the CTE and the jumpstart path into our college programs. The final one there is 7, consideration of structural changes. And as you know, this is something that we continually consider and look at. And as you recall, just a few years ago, you made a recommendation to move 8 campuses into other institutions. So these are the 7 recommendations that deal with actions that we can take, and a few of the items that we're doing under each one of them. There were also recommendations for the legislators to take, and also recommendations in this report for Board of Regents actions to take. Dr. Sullivan?
Thank you, Renee, and we will come back to you within the next couple of months with actions that we would like to see taken by this board, and also for an update on those items that we potentially may see within the April 2021 legislative session. Any questions of Renee or myself on the NCHEM study?
Monty, just a quick question. Do we have, I remember in the NCHEM's report, the issue about class sizes was seemed to be, they made a big deal about it. Do we have any policies, guidelines at the system level for class sizes, or is that a decision we leave totally up to campuses?
So we do not have a policy at the system level. What we do have, largely we manage that as a result of the financial health of the institution. Part of the challenge, as you know well, general education courses tend to have a larger class size than, say, technical programs. So what you see in that listing is the more technical a class or a program, the smaller the class size. So you might see a Central Louisiana Technical Community College or Northwest that are smaller in class size than, say, a Bossier Parish Community College. So we have begun to have some conversations about whether there should be a floor or some level of a minimum that might be worthwhile to consider, perhaps as policy, perhaps as a recommendation. We're still thinking our way through that, but great question. Very important. I was in a conversation with a colleague from Indiana, Sue Elsperman, who runs the Ivy Tech system, shared with us a discussion around the students per section. Their average students per section prior to a pretty significant reorganization was 15. That number amped up to 21, from 15 to 21 students per section across all of the colleges there, thousands of sections. The result of that is revenue without new expense. And if you think of that from a business perspective, that's what you hope for. You hope for additional revenue without incurring that new expense. So it is a really important trigger for us, and we certainly are taking to heart the intent of your question. Yes, sir. Other questions? All right, I'm going to run through a couple of quick updates from colleges. I want to specifically call out the folks at North Shore who received a $26,000 contribution from our friends at Shell to support their STEM education and workforce training initiatives. Also, the folks at Fletcher Technical Community College received national recognition from the Chronicle of Higher Education as one of the nation's best places to work. Just think of that for a second. Fletcher Technical Community College, and everybody knows that living down the bayou, Supervisor Smith, is the best place on the planet, right? So even the folks, the Chronicle of Higher Education, have figured that out. You also will mention to you, North Shore Technical Community College was recognized as a top workplace by the Times-Picayune. Times-Picayune New Orleans Advocate. Well, what a name that is these days, right? And then the final two items that I have for you, I want to share the screen very quickly and show you a picture of the inside of what we have mentioned to you in the past as the mobile learning labs, taking technical education to rural communities all across Louisiana. What you're about to see is a mobile trailer that is roughly 25 feet in length, and it contains units that we are able to train on, pull those trainers out, replace them with new trainers, depending upon the content area. But imagine if you're a kid growing up in a small town where you don't have access to education. When that vehicle shows up and you see the technology that is there, it gives you a sense of what is possible. And just a great deal of work has gone into this. And with that, I will share with you a quick photo, probably not the best photo, but as you can see, you have trainers that allow an individual student to learn everything from programmable logic controllers to electrical grids, a whole range of robotics and other kinds of opportunities. You see the screen that is there at the back of the unit, which allows for audio and video kinds of presentations, a number of different pieces of equipment that students are able to be trained on, and some of the basics of electricity. So just as one example, I thought it was important for you to get a chance to see what our colleges have been able to pull together as we continue to focus on the importance of those rural campuses. I have to tell you, Mr. Murphy, technical education has come a long way since the days that our good chair was teaching drafting in Winsboro, and just very proud of the innovation that our colleges are showing there. And the final note I have for you on the college update, and this gives me as much thankfulness as I can possibly muster. This morning, during this meeting, I received a text message from Chancellor William Wainwright. Several of you as board members had an opportunity to participate yesterday in the SACS visit, as the SACS team has been at North Shore since Monday. I say at North Shore, they have virtually been at North Shore. And that team wrapped up its visit this morning, and the word from the chair was there are zero recommendations for our friends at North Shore Technical Community College. The recommendation will be for full accreditation for North Shore. And I want you to remember, it was just a few short months ago when they earned candidacy status. This is record time for the folks at North Shore, and a tribute to Chancellor Wainwright and the team at North Shore Technical Community College. Very proud of the work that is going on there. So congratulations to all. I want to transition, if we can, now to our quick discussion as a part of our board development. As you are aware, we have made our way through the last 6 years of our Louisiana 2020. It was the board's effort to say to the state of Louisiana, here's what our colleges will do for you as a state. As we end that effort and now begin to turn to the what's next, I've asked Dennis Epps if he will to provide some guidance to the system as a whole in trying to lay out what is the next plan, 5 years, 6 years, 8 years, whatever the time frame may be, but what are the critical elements that need to be there? As many of you are aware, Dennis came to us from the state of Georgia, where he worked as a part of the Carl Vinson Government Institute at the University of Georgia. And we won't hold that against him, but specifically the work that he did there was with corporations from around the world, small towns, county governments, states, elected officials, and others to develop strategic plans, much like what we're talking about here. So thankfully, Dennis has been willing to work with us to help develop the next thinking on our next strategic plan. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Dennis Epps.
Thank you, Dr. Sullivan. It's so good to be with all of you, Chairman Price, members of the board. I don't think anybody's happy to see these faces that I'm seeing than I am. It was good to see all of you. I'm always with you and thinking of you and working to support the work that all of you do every day. So I've been very honored to be involved with this What's Next effort. I'm certainly not doing it alone. It's a team effort. But one of the things that I've thoroughly enjoyed here is working to cast the net wide to get input into what should be the next strategic plan for the system. And to do that, we've really developed a pretty elaborate system for making sure we have adequate input. And we have gone and formed a committee to help work on drafting a plan. That plan will percolate, of course, obviously from the committee on out to the chancellors and the system folks and ultimately up to you. And the goal is for that committee to finish its recommendations by the middle of November. The committee itself is comprised, every college in the system is represented. Not only is every college represented, but all levels of the organization is represented. It's not just administrators. We have everyone, including a number of you that are on this call today, have been active in this process and have been able to participate in these very, very good calls that we've had. We finished the second committee meeting yesterday. To say that we're getting good input would be a gross understatement. You know, all of the committee members are taking their work serious. It's obvious they love the system, they love their state. So we're beginning to get recommendations. We've reviewed what we did with the 6 goals we had under LA 2020. We've been casting the net now to see if there are new goals that should be contemplated. Some good ideas are coming forward. Not quite ready to share those yet, but there's some really good ideas coming forward. So the committee will work. But while the committee's working, the other thing we did was develop a series of surveys that went afield to stakeholders of all different types across the state to get input, and results are slowly beginning to come in. We're not getting a ton of those, but the ones we're getting are very well written and very well thought out. I think very informative. So, you know, we intend to keep working the process, hopefully through the middle of November with the committee. I think that you're going to be very pleasantly surprised by the great amount of thought that has come into the process, not by me, but by all of these people who are serving. And I know many of you have been on these calls and can testify to the rich discussions there. But again, working diligently for what's next.
Very good. Our hope is to bring back to you at some point in the early 2021 timeframe with some information to give you an opportunity to weigh in as a board, and then certainly at some point prior to July of 2021, we'll have a formal recommendation to the board. So any questions of Dennis Epps? All right, thank you, sir. With that, I'll turn back to you, Mr. Chairman.
Thanks, sir. I believe it's time for Supervisor Mount to present the academic and student affairs action items for our consideration. Supervisor Mount. There you go.
All right. So general action items. Do I need to read all these out loud?
No, we'll just take it one at a time. The first number 1, just read it, and then there'll be a recommendation.
Okay.
And all these are for review only. Okay.
Item number 1 is for board review and advisement revisions to LCTC policy 1.033, enrollment management.
Thank you, Supervisor Mount. I'll take that item. Again, this is for review and advisement. This deals with the growing need at our colleges to implement more strategic enrollment management policies, given the competitive nature of enrollment that we're currently in. And so after meeting with it was actually requested by the chancellors to undertake this. And I worked with the chief student affairs officers across the colleges to revamp this policy to make it a little bit more comprehensive. So you'll see in the policy that the CSAOs not only developed a comprehensive definition for enrollment management, which incorporates all of our student types, credit, non-credit, and adult education, but they also had developed some core principles for strategic enrollment management, a code of conduct, and a requirement that all LCTCS colleges develop and implement 5-year strategic enrollment management plans. In addition, they asked that the system office be written into this policy with some skin in the game as well, asking that the system office provide training, data gathering, and the development of data dashboards to help colleges more closely track their enrollment management efforts. So the staff recommends that the board accept for review and advisement the attached revisions to LCTCS policy 1.033 titled enrollment management.
Okay. Are there any questions or comments? The motion is not required for this item. The second item on your agenda for board review and advisement, revisions to LCTCS academic affairs policies.
Thank you, Supervisor Mount. This is a review of all of the policies in the academic affairs space, 43 policies in all, in collaboration with academic officers, student affairs officers, faculty senate presidents, accreditation liaisons, and a few other groups. What they've done is they decided to combine similar policies, retire outdated ones, or any repetitive ones. And that's what you have here is a review of these policies that were done. And the staff recommends the board accept for review and advisement the attached revisions to LCTCS academic affairs policies.
Okay, are there any questions or comments? Hearing none, we'll go to item 3. Revision to the question. Okay. Revisions to LCTCS work ready U policies.
Yes, ma'am. Again, this is a review of the policies for work ready U instead of the academic affair ones. This combines 19 policies into one, combining similar policies, retiring outdated ones, and any repetitive ones. This one involved a work ready U functional team looking at it, in addition to the chancellor's group, as well as our partners in adult education across the state reviewed these policies to make the recommendation. So staff recommends the board accept for review and advisement the attached revisions to LCTCS work ready U policies.
Okay, comments or questions? All right, item 4, servitude and right-of-way agreement from LCTCS.
Whoa. No, wait a minute. No, I think that would be Supervisor Jackson will be handling that.
Okay, I'm just rolling.
You are rolling, that's great.
Willie, be my guest.
All right, thank you, Supervisor Mann. We appreciate it. I think before Supervisor Jackson does his thing, we need to, I think all these can be voted on at one time. Is that correct, Monty?
Yes, sir, that's correct. We just simply need a motion to consider these 3 items in globo. So if you'd like, I'm glad to word the motion if someone would like to make the motion.
So moved.
So moved by Supervisor Mount. That recommendation that the board shall consider items H 4, 5, and 6 in globo.
We have a motion by Supervisor Mount and a second by Supervisor McConduit. Sarah, can you call the roll, please, ma'am?
Yes, sir. Supervisor Price,
Yes.
Supervisor Mount,
Yes.
Supervisor Jackson,
Yes.
Supervisor Bradford is absent. I apologize. Supervisor Carter,
Yes.
Supervisor Roman Hardy,
Yes.
Supervisor Tim Hardy,
Yes.
Supervisor McConduit,
Yes.
Supervisor Murphy,
Yes.
Supervisor Salah,
Yes.
Supervisor Smith,
Yes.
Supervisor Spahn,
Yes.
Supervisor Mitchell,
Yes.
Supervisor Turner.
Yes.
Great. And the motion to consider items 4, 5, and 6 has been approved. And so now I think we need to review each of the items individually.
Yes. Supervisor Jackson, would you lead us in that, please?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Our first item is on facilities. Can you hear me? Okay.
Supervisor
Our
Jackson.
first servitude and right-of-way agreement from LCTCS on behalf of Fletcher Techno Community College to Energy Louisiana LLC. Joe, you want to take it?
Yes, sir. As many of you may know, Fletcher has an Act 360 project, or has had an Act 360 project already. Entergy is asking for a 10-foot right-of-way to provide for the next phase of their project, which is a workforce training center. So this is a very straightforward project that we do, or process that we do for all these type of projects where we ask for a right-of-way approval from the board prior to granting it to either Entergy or any other utility company. So as such, staff recommends the board authorize the president to execute a right-of-way agreement between Entergy Louisiana LLC and the LCTCS on behalf of Fletcher Technical Community College for the connection of electrical service and the continued maintenance of the utility distribution equipment to be installed on property occupied by the Fletcher Schriever campus. The legal description and technical drawings illustrating the area transferred will be maintained in the office of the Chief Operations Officer.
You've heard the recommendation. Is there a motion?
Mr. Jackson, we will have a motion at the end of reading all.
Okay, that's fine. Thank you, Sarah.
So Joe, if you would like to read recommendation for number 5, the CEA between Baton Rouge Community College and CareSouth.
Yes, staff recommends that the board authorize the president and the chancellor of Baton Rouge Community College to negotiate and execute a cooperative endeavor agreement between the college and CareSouth Incorporated to provide medical care services to the students, faculty, and staff. And again, this is a company that will provide these services to the faculty, students, and staff as well at a reduced rate with having a site on campus.
And number 6, lease agreement on behalf of Louisiana Delta Community College, Winsboro campus.
Yes, sir. I'll read the recommendation first. Staff recommends the board authorize the president and the interim chancellor of Louisiana Delta Community College to negotiate and execute a lease agreement on behalf of the Louisiana Delta Community College, Winsboro campus for property to conduct a heavy equipment operator and diesel agricultural equipment training program. So as such, this gives them the authorization to go out and seek landowners to enter into an agreement with them to provide land for these types of programs.
Okay. And so we're taking them all together, Sarah?
Yes, sir. We would have a motion on the floor to approve the recommendations as presented for items 4, 5, and 6 on the agenda.
Okay. You've heard the recommendations. Is there a motion?
Motion by Ms. Carter, second by Mr. Turner.
Any questions? All those in favor? Sarah, you going to call the roll?
Yes, sir. We still have to have one roll call vote instead of.
Okay.
Supervisor Price.
Yes.
Supervisor Mount.
Yes.
Supervisor Jackson.
Yes.
Supervisor Carter.
Yes.
Supervisor Roman Hardy.
Yes.
Supervisor Tim Hardy.
Yes.
Supervisor McConduit.
Yes.
Supervisor Murphy.
Yes.
Supervisor Salat.
Yes.
Supervisor Smith.
Yes.
Supervisor Spahn.
Yes.
Supervisor Mitchell.
Yes.
And last but not least, Supervisor Turner.
Yes.
Thank you. That motion has passed.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Supervisor Jackson. Good job. Supervisor Salath. It's your turn.
Thank you, Chairman. The only issue we have is information on the fiscal budget of 2020-21, changes in the operating budget entries. And Joe, if you would like to handle this recommendation.
Yes, sir. What I'd like to do is
please.
Yes, sir. I'd like to give just a brief overview. Some of you may recall at the last board meeting, you acted on an allocation of state funding to the colleges. What this item is the actual approval of the operating budgets of the colleges as a formal action taken on behalf of the board, which then allows us to provide these operating budgets to the Board of Regents and other external agencies at the legislature, both the Senate, the House, and the Division of Administration. It provides a little bit greater detail in terms of the use of funds. And with that, I would like to highlight some points in all of this. As now we are within 2 to 3 months, 2 months actually into the fall semester, colleges have a greater understanding of where their enrollments are and what that impact is on their tuition revenues. While on average, the enrollment loss or the enrollment is down, I would say about 7% as compared to last fall. That represents roughly a $10 to $12 million decrease in self-generated revenues. So while it's not necessarily catastrophic, it is a point of concern that all colleges are monitoring their enrollments and the impacts on their self-generated budgets. Traditionally, the spring semesters are lower than the fall semesters. And so if this trend continues, there will be something we just have to be mindful of. Additionally, as we reported at the last board meeting, we have about $16 million in CARES Act funding that we were allowed to carry over from last year into this year's budget to basically backfill the state general fund cut that we received of roughly $22 million. That is available, however, as a point of concern also going into the following subsequent fiscal year, for fiscal year 2021-22. If those dollars are not funded, we will face, again, that funding shortfall going into the next fiscal year. That $16 million represents about a 5% total decrease in the operating budgets of our colleges. So that, coupled with us just being mindful of our enrollments going forward and the impact that COVID-19 and others have had on us, will be something that we will be mindful of. With that said, though, if there are no questions, I would like to read the recommendation that staff recommends that the board accept receipt of the formal FY 2021 operating budgets of the LCTCS colleges and the board office.
So you've heard the
Is
recommendation.
there any questions or comments?
We do need to take board action on this item. And so if I could receive a motion to accept the receipt of this report in a second.
So moved.
Motion by Ms. Mount, second by Mr. Spawn. Did I see? Oh, Mr. Hart, I'm sorry. And we'll do a roll call vote.
Sarah, before you do that, can I ask a question, please?
Yes, and thank you for using the raise hand feature.
Yeah, well, I'm getting there in this Zoom stuff. I'm catching up with the rest of the world. So Joe, this is Stevie Smith, by the way. So, just a general question. What's the driver for the variability in the reductions? I mean, as I reviewed the budgets, right, there's variability between the schools and how the circumstances you described affected them. Okay. And again, I don't, some folks are, on the order of 20%, some folks on the order of 10%. Okay. So if you could give me and the other board members, what drives the variability?
Part of that has to do with again, the funding formula was not necessarily run this go around in the fiscal year, and there were also some funds that were non-recurred. That's more so the point. Funds that were provided by the state through the board office to, in particular, Central and I believe Northwest, for accreditation purposes that were non-recurred. And therefore you see this big drop from last year into this year because of that. So among that,
and I know.
Yes, sir.
I'm sorry, Joe. And I noticed that those are actually two of them that I flagged. Okay, and by my recollection, those are also two schools that we had some concerns about their financial strength, if I'm not mistaken. right?
Correct.
So both of those, the fact that they showed a more significant drop, and the fact that we have a little bit of a history of both those, caused me pretty significant concern. We still have our financial kind of indicators tracking that we do, right?
Right.
To keep an eye on the folks that we're concerned about, which we implemented, a year or two ago now, right?
Well, we actually have three mechanisms. One is the financial health index, which we've had roughly for about 5 years now, 5 or 6 years, at a very high level. We also, in the last 3 years, have implemented an automatic reporting out of Banner, out of the accounting system, that goes to both the CFO of the college, the CEO, the chancellor, and here a cash flow, monthly cash flow report and analysis, and also a monthly revenue and expense category that kind of breaks down information at a very specific departmental sub-account level, and compares that to the prior year's figures and highlights any variances of 5% otherwise. So we've got three mechanisms. All of us, all our colleges, chancellors, and board office have three mechanisms by which we follow this. One issue that we kind of need to be aware of as well, and I've talked to Dr. Sullivan about this as well, is the impact that these one-time dollars have on accreditation, potentially. Because while the intent is good to provide funding and resources to these colleges to buy the resources they need for accreditation, when SACS comes in and looks at the financial health of a college, one of the first things they usually do is look at the financial statements, so that if 1 year they see this cash come in, and all of a sudden they see this drawdown where the cash balances and the reserves are being depleted, to them, the first trigger is there's a problem financially, when in fact, the issue is that there's been an infusion of resources. So what we need to do, at least the board office and the state in general, is to kind of look at that and address that issue more appropriately, so that we're not necessarily harming the colleges as we go through the accreditation process.
Well, and before I yield my point on the floor here, accreditation is a good point. I mean, I'm just frankly worried about the financial stability of these schools, the same ones that we've been worried about for a while. And I would agree with you. There's no guarantee enrollment's going to pick up, because I'm not sure a lot of people have the money to pay for tuition as much as they did, say, a year ago. And quite frankly, I'm not sure there's more help coming from other sources. In the past, when we've had schools that have had financial difficulties, we've been able to step in, right? Dr. Sullivan been able to step in sometimes and help support them, but I'm not sure that we got mechanisms to do that in this environment. I'm a little concerned about that.
I appreciate you bringing up this point, and I could not agree with you more. I want to go back to the report that Renee provided a few minutes ago around the interim study. The reality is that our state will not see a resurgence of revenue. That's just a reality. We lost $5 million going into this fiscal year. The likelihood is the $16 million that was provided in CARES Act money that was carried forward will not be backfilled next year. So we can anticipate yet another $16 million cut. You add the enrollment challenges to that, and you have a fairly bleak revenue picture. And not to mention the fact that we also, within the next 15 months, are likely to lose another 0.45 penny off the sales tax that the state has. So you're right. We are in a very difficult financial circumstance, one that will require that we innovate in a way that we probably have not had to in the past. So, I know that Chancellor Sawtelle, Chancellor Metter, both of those gentlemen are working every single day to try to keep those institutions afloat and accomplish what needs to be done in those regions. They share your concern. We talk almost on a daily basis about this very issue. So we share your concern.
Monty, let me just say, I think this ties in, and it's not a question, just a comment, but Emily's report about enrollment management. If there ever was a time that we need to get our act together vis-a-vis enrollment management at our colleges and across the system, now is the time. So I really support the efforts to have colleges develop enrollment management plans we may need to look at a system-wide enrollment management plan. And that's my background. So I'm happy to help in any way I can.
Absolutely. Thank you for that. And you're spot on. One of the concerns that we have all had for a number of years is that we as a state continue to spend $300 million a year in TOPS on 18-year-old kids, when the reality is we have an adult problem in Louisiana. And so we have a policy discussion to have. That probably won't make a lot of people happy, but it's one that has to be had that should help to drive some of the enrollment. An adult promise type discussion as we've had before. I think it is right for Louisiana, no doubt.
So I think that we have a motion on the floor by Supervisor and seconded by Mr. Hardy, Tim Hardy. And so if okay, are there any other questions?
Sir, if I could give just one.
Sarah, you going to call the roll?
Yes, sir. I think Dr. Sullivan had.
Mr. Chairman, if I could give one additional bit of information, and it was referenced, I think, by Supervisor Smith a few minutes ago. The fiscal health index will be provided at next month's meeting that will encompass the July, August, and September Q1 data. And so we'll get those out to you as a part of the materials for the November meeting of the board.
I'm not sure where the feedback is coming from, but I'll go ahead and call roll for this vote. Supervisor Price.
Yes.
Supervisor Mount.
Yes.
Supervisor Jackson.
Yes.
Supervisor Carter. She said, thank you. Supervisor Roman Hardy.
Yes.
Supervisor Tim Hardy.
Yes.
Supervisor Erica McConduit.
Yes.
Supervisor Murphy.
Yes.
Supervisor Salah.
Yes.
Supervisor Smith.
Yes.
Supervisor Spahn.
Yes.
Supervisor Mitchell.
Yes.
Supervisor Turner.
Yes.
Thank you, and this motion has passed without objection.
Item number 8 is the review and advertisement for the retirement of obsolete LCTCS policies. Joe, can you share with us that recommendation?
Yes, sir. This is, again, just for review and advisement. No action is necessary, but much like the academic affairs, student affairs folks have done, we on the finance, HR, facility side have gone through many of our policies that have been in existence since the inception of the LCTCS to look through policies that are duplicative, they no longer apply, they're superseded by federal or state law. So we're bringing before you for review and advisement 18 policies to be retired. As such, staff recommends that the board accept for review and advisement the list of LCTCS policies mentioned below for retirement as they are covered by current existing law or are no longer applicable as they address specific situations that are no longer applicable. And again, just for review and advisement.
Are there any questions or comments? Hearing none. Mr. Chairman, that's my report.
Very good. Thank you, sir. Supervisor Hardy now will present personnel agenda items for consideration by the board.
Yes, sir, Mr. Chairman, happy to do it. The first item, personnel review and advisement, LCTCS policy number 6.037, educational assistance policy.
Yes, sir. This continuing on with the review of policies, this again for review and advisement is in essence a compilation or a collapse of 3 current HR policies into one. All of them pertain to educational leave with various situations. Some are a policy specific to employees themselves. One is to their tuition dependents and spouses, and the other policy has to do with those employees that wish to further their education past into the graduate level education. So instead of having these 3 policies out there that sometimes people get confused in terms of what they should be looking for, the HR folks met at all the colleges and have recommended coming up with one policy that combines them all into one. So as such, well, let me make this point first. Also, in the report itself, in your board packet on page 352, there's a report there that is in response to a request that was made by the board years ago in terms of the usage of these policies. So on page 352, you can see that we, as a system, spend roughly about $400,000 in educational benefits to our employees, dependent spouses, and so forth. So with that said, again, staff recommends that the board accept for review and advisement the attached policy 6.037, educational assistance.
Okay, thank you very much, Ms. Marine. That's only for review and advisement, so I don't need a motion. Next item. At this time, I request a motion to enter into executive session to discuss items 8.10, appointment of acting interim chancellor for River Parishes Community College. 8.11, performance evaluation of LCTCS chancellors. 8.12, performance evaluation of LCTCS president. And 8.13, pending and potential litigation. Ms. Klein-Peter, I request at this time that motion.
So moved.
So motion by Mr. Jackson and a second by Ms. McConduit.
So we need a roll call vote?
Yes, sir. And this vote is to enter in executive session. Supervisor Price,
Yes.
Supervisor Mount,
Yes.
Supervisor Jackson,
Yes.
Supervisor Carter,
Yes.
Supervisor Roman Hardy,
Yes.
Supervisor Tim Hardy,
Yes.
Supervisor McConduit,
Yes.
Supervisor Murphy. He said yes. Mr. Murphy, can you nod your head?
Yes.
Supervisor Salah,
Yes.
Supervisor Smith,
Yes.
Supervisor Spawn,
Yes.
Supervisor Mitchell,
Yes.
Supervisor Turner.
Yes.
The motion to enter executive session has been approved at 11:04 a.m. Members of the board, if you would connect to that Microsoft link that I sent in the email, we will go into executive session there. Please make sure that your Zoom account is logged out or on mute.
Okay.
I'm trying to, honey.
on that one. We do have a couple of here, but again, this is the kind of all headlines that we have to be aware of. On the second one, the third.
Miss Paul, I'm here.
Thank you, Supervisor Price. We are quietly making sure everybody's back on before we call the meeting back into order and then do our roll call vote. So we will be.
Well, I'm apparently having camera problems now.
Yeah, Paul, this is Craig. It says something has to be turned on, I think, from your end, Sarah.
We are turning the video back on. We're sorry for that. Give us a few minutes. We're waiting on a couple of people to get back on with us.
Sarah, I can't do my video. I might have to get out and try to start over. It says up on the upper right, can I start video? Please select another camera. Well, you know, come on. I don't have a one. It did this yesterday. I'm gonna start over.
Yes, sir. And we're still waiting, I think, on Ms. Carter and Mr. Salath to get back on also.
Paul, you're better than me. My wife's picture popped up one time on mine. So.
Testing. Sarah, is my audio working? It is. Very good. Thank you.
Sarah, can you hear me? I don't know what happened to my camera. I can't get it on.
That is strange. I'm trying to get Ms. Helen back on. She's having a problem. And she's joining by phone. And I think Mr. Hardy and Mr. Shalas still need to join in.
We on, Sarah.
We on, Sarah.
Got it. Yes, ma'am. And we're Mr. Hardy is back, and I'm still trying to get in touch with Mr. Salath. Mr. Murphy says you're not getting audio. Mr. Murphy, your microphone is not on mute on this side, so your audio issue is maybe on your phone or your device that you're using.
Well, folks, I have to tell you, I cannot wait for in-person board meetings.
I'm of the same mind. I would like to actually meet all of you in person and shake your hands.
Had not thought about that, but both you and Tara are, we've only had an opportunity to meet virtually. You're right.
Yep. I don't know. I know I had a few conversations with you prior to me being on the board. I don't think we've actually met face to face.
Face-to-face has a whole new meaning nowadays, though.
Yes, it does.
Right. I miss people myself.
I mean, a positive takeaway from all of this is I believe everyone has found some of what was missing because of technology, you know, that desire to actually be in-person interactions.
That's right.
Yeah.
At least for my generation, I know it has changed that way.
We had the chancellors together yesterday for the first time in the room, and I have to tell you, it was emotional. It was really emotional to see those guys face to face again. It's been a while.
Yeah. But we sure appreciate your leadership, Dr. Sullivan.
Thank you for that. Appreciate you guys. It is crazy times for sure.
Well, I guess the good news is, you know, you haven't seen all of us in person, new student board members. You know, a couple of us look a lot better on a 3-inch wide screen than we do in person. I mean,
Oh, yeah, I don't look so.
I'm gonna tell you right now, I'm only 4 feet 3 inches tall. Okay, it may not come through on the screen, but I'm really a short person.
Oh, wow, you're shorter than me. I can't wait to meet you.
Oh, we're having a problem with truthfulness too.
Not easy. I was about to say, listen, speak for yourself, okay? Because I think I look better in person.
Well, I tell you this, I've decided I want to go to Chip's house. I want to see that collection of pictures he has there in his office. I'm impressed.
This is my Satchmo room. So
look at that. We have the
brought
chairman back. All right, Sarah.
So,
Wow.
Mr. Murphy, we hear you now. Mr. Salath is not back on, and he is not available to answer the phone right now. So I could note for the record that he did participate in the executive session and was unable to reconnect to our Zoom meeting for the entry back into the meeting. And so, Mr. Chairman, you may call the meeting back to order, and I will note that on official record.
Yes, the Vinnie rule. I would like at this point in time to call us back into session, out of executive session. Sarah, would you please take a roll call?
Yes, sir. Supervisor Price.
Present.
Supervisor Mount.
Here.
Supervisor Jackson,
Here.
Supervisor Carter is here on her phone. Thank you, Ms. Carter. Supervisor Roman Hardy,
Present.
Supervisor Tim Hardy,
Here.
Supervisor
Here.
McConduit,
Here.
Supervisor Murphy,
Here.
Supervisor Salah is not present and has not been unable to return at this point. Supervisor Smith,
Here.
Supervisor Spawn,
Yes, ma'am.
Supervisor Mitchell, and Supervisor
Yes,
Turner.
ma'am. I'm here.
And
I'm here.
Supervisor- Yes, ma'am. We heard you, Ms. Helen.
We didn't think you did. Thank you.
Yes, ma'am. And Mr. Hardy, Tim, you may continue on with the personnel items. We're on item number 10.
Let me state for the record that no votes were taken and no consensus was reached during the executive session.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Next item, appointment of acting interim chancellor for River Parishes Community College.
Yes, sir. Dr. Jim Carlson is currently the Vice Chancellor of Strategic Initiatives and External Affairs at North Shore Technical Community College, where he oversees advancement, workforce and adult education, youth build, public relations, STEM, outreach, testing services, grants, and professional development. That's pretty much everything, and Will has a very small role at the college as the Chancellor. As such, staff recommends the board appoint Dr. Jim Carlson as acting chancellor of River Parishes Community College effective October 1, 2020 until December 31st, 2020 with a base annualized salary of $155,000. Effective January 1, 2021 through June 30th of 2021, that he will assume the role of interim chancellor with the aforementioned base annualized salary with additional compensation comprised of a $20,000 housing allowance, a $5,000 vehicle allowance or the use of a state vehicle, and a $2,500 civic organization allowance with the option to extend his services for 6 months if needed.
You've heard the recommendation. Is there a motion?
So moved. It's Craig.
Is there a second?
Second, Roman Hardy.
Are there
We have a
objections?
motion by Mr. Spawn and a second by Roman Hardy.
Are there objections? Ms. Klein-Peter, do we need to vote?
Yes, sir. We do need to take a roll call vote on this item, so I'll go ahead and do that since we have a motion and a second. Supervisor Price,
Yes.
Supervisor Mount,
Yes.
Supervisor Jackson,
Yes.
Supervisor Carter, Ms. Helen, do you approve that motion?
Yes.
Thank you.
Hello.
Supervisor Roman Hardy,
Yes.
Tim Hardy,
Yes.
Supervisor McConduit,
Yes.
Supervisor Murphy,
Yes.
Supervisor Smith.
Yes, sorry about that.
Supervisor Spawn,
Yes.
Supervisor Mitchell,
Yes, ma'am.
Supervisor Turner.
Yes.
And the motion has been approved.
Thank you. Next item, performance evaluations of LCTCS chancellors. This is for informational purposes only.
There's no action on that item.
And performance evaluation of LCTCS president, also informational purposes only. And do we have any public comment on pending and potential litigation? That's informational only as well. Okay, Mr. Chairman, back in your hands.
Yeah, I think we're fixing to pull into the station too. I would like to present the consent agenda items for consideration by the board.
Yes, sir, Mr. Price, I'll read the recommendation. Staff recommends that the board approve the consent agenda, which consists of agenda items I1 through I3.
Okay, we will need a motion and a second.
So
So
moved.
moved.
Motion by Ms. Mount and a second, I believe, by Mr. Turner. Was that right?
Yes.
And we do have to have a roll call vote.
Yes, ma'am.
I will do that now. Supervisor Price,
Yes.
Supervisor Mount,
Yes.
Supervisor Jackson,
Yes.
Supervisor Carter, Ms. Helen. Do you approve the motion?
Yes.
Yes.
Thank you. Supervisor Roman Hardy,
Yes.
Supervisor Tim Hardy,
Yes.
Supervisor McConduit,
Yes.
Supervisor Murphy,
Yes.
Supervisor Smith,
Yes.
Supervisor Spawn,
Yes.
Supervisor Mitchell,
Yes.
Supervisor Turner.
Yes.
And that, ladies and gentlemen, may or may not have been your last roll call vote.
Hey, they're kind of cool if you ask me.
Okay, everybody got a copy of the updates, and I will encourage each of you to review the items as provided. I won't go over them at this time, but you can plainly see them there. Is there any additional business to come before this board? Are there any?
Mr. Chairman, I would just like to say that we've had no requests for public comment via the telephone, the internet web submission, or by email.
Well, that's good, because it's been a heck of a day for electronic stuff, I can promise you. So there's no additional business. Are there any announcements? The only announcement I have is I appreciate all of y'all's patience with me, and I commend the staff, for making this happen. This is really a challenge, I can tell, at times. So I appreciate all that y'all have done. Any other announcements?
I would also, for the board, I'm sorry, we did email the copy of the Governor Foster video to you guys. So if you would like to look at it, you have it in your email. And then also that if you could and have not yet, if you could complete the driver certification. Some of you still have not done that, and I will be talking to each of you very soon about it.
Okay. He's good at that. All righty, I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
Wait, I'm sorry, Mr. Chairman.
Hey, Sarah.
I'm sorry, before you hang up, I'm sorry, Mr.
Sarah.
Chairman. We did have I'm sorry, Jim Carlson sent us a message just moments ago and said that he would like to thank Dr. Sullivan, Chairman Price, and the entire board for the opportunity to serve as the acting chancellor of River Parishes Community College.
We're very glad to have him. He took a good guy's place.
And who made the motion for adjournment?
Supervisor.
Oh, I'm sorry, Erica, do you have a comment? Erica, do you have a comment?
No, I don't. I was just going to say thank you for sending the video. We got it.
You're welcome.
I made the motion.
Thank you, Mr. Murphy.
And a second, anybody?
I'll second.
All righty,
Thank
we'll
you, Ms.
adjourn.
Muhammad.
Thanks, guys. Have a great
Thank you all.
Thank you, everybody.
Thanks, everyone. Take care.
Nice job, Sarah.
Thank you, Mr. Price.